Welcome back to Midlife by Design. I'm your host, Lisai, and I help midlife women learn how to use their human design to live in alignment so they can shed the shoulds and be who they came here to be. Today we're talking about emotions. I saw a thread this week where a woman said that she feels like she can't trust her emotions anymore, and it was tagged perimenopause, and it really just hit me. So I decided to record an episode about it in case you are feeling the same way. And because emotions are the key to our well-being and to manifestation, which is another topic that we've been exploring on the pod, I also want to apologize if the sound quality isn't the greatest this week. I am traveling to see my son and I totally forgot my microphone. So I'm doing the best I can in the edit process. And before we get into it real quick, if you are local, I have some workshops coming up. This Thursday, the 23rd of October at Treehouse in Waterbury will be one of the ongoing workshops in the series about human design. We are focusing on some of the centers this week. And then I have another 3-part introductory series that will be at the Sanctuary in the Chase Mill in Burlington, and that kicks off on the 30th of October. So the links are in the show notes there. Without further ado, let's dive in. Hello, beauties. I have been thinking a lot lately about emotions and their relationship to manifestation and how emotions can be so incredibly volatile in midlife, especially during perimenopause with all of the hormonal shifts. So today I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to talk about the human design component of that. And I wanted to give you a tool to help you feel, I guess, to help you connect with your emotions and start to understand them so that you can use them to manifest the life that you want in this second half of life. So think about this for a minute. Over the last X number of years, if you're in perimenopause, if you're in menopause, over the last couple of decades, can you think back to your emotional landscape? And does it feel like you have been through the ringer? Or does it feel like you have had more intense emotions than perhaps you have had in a long while? Perimenopause does that to us with the dropping off of progesterone and estrogen and just in general the hormonal chaos. Those hormones affect how we feel. They have an effect on our emotional landscape, whether we have definition or not, which I will talk about in a few minutes here. But I saw a thread, which I love threads so much, and it oftentimes gives me inspiration for these episodes. But I saw a thread this past week, and the person who posted it said, "I can't trust my emotions." And I thought, wow, that is so hard when you feel like you can't trust your emotions, because, for half the population, you have an emotional authority. Your emotions are all about your decision-making process. And when you feel like you can't trust them, well, that's a problem. That's a problem. So obviously, those hormones are changing the way that we emote, and understanding what's true for us and seeing our emotions as messengers, I think, is key to thriving in this time of life. So one of the pieces that comes up a lot when I'm coaching women is this feeling like they are too much or their feelings are too much. And again, when you've got hormones in the mix, which we do women and men have hormones, but women especially, and we are cyclical beings. And sometimes of the month, it might feel like our emotions are too much, even for us to handle. Say nothing about the people who are around us, but they're just messengers, right? There's nothing wrong. And it may be that the way that you reply to somebody comes out a little more clipped or a little angrier than you meant for it to come out. But those are messengers. When you hear something coming out of your voice in a certain way, it's like a tip for you. It's your body's way of communicating, hey, this is how I'm feeling right now. And there might be some actions that you can take to help me feel better. And it doesn't mean that you're too much because you're feeling ragey about the fact that somebody left dirty dishes in the sink again. It doesn't matter if you are, bawling at the Kleenex commercial. I shouldn't say it doesn't matter. What I mean is it doesn't make you a wreck for it, or make you less than for it, or make you somehow unworthy for it because you feel like you can't control your emotions or you don't understand what's happening to you. Emotions are simply data. They're simply messengers. And your job is to learn how to read them. And in order to build trust with your emotions, it's to understand, are there patterns that are coming up? And when my hormones are chaotic, are there still truths that are coming through that are really important for me to understand and to help to support my body as it's going through this huge change? So from a manifestation perspective, because I've been talking about manifestation a lot and I've been really focusing on it recently, as a manifestation tool, emotions are key because emotions are our frequency. Emotions are not only the messengers for us that are telling us how we feel, but that feeling emits a frequency. And that frequency, by the laws of attraction, is what brings and attracts those things into our life that we want. And here's why I want to talk a little bit about the defined and the undefined emotional solar plexus. So if you're looking at your chart, first of all, if you don't have your chart, go to my website, www.lorilisai.com, and go to get your chart and download it. And look at the emotional solar plexus, which is the triangle on the right-hand side of the chart down toward the bottom that's facing inward. And see if that's colored in or not. If it's colored in, then that means you're defined. If it's undefined, that means it's going to be white. And so I want you to think about this, which can be an interesting kind of mindfuck, but the undefined, the open emotional solar plexus can actually feel potentially more deeply than if your emotional solar plexus is defined, because you are taking in and amplifying other people's emotions. I want you to really think about that for a minute, because as a perimenopausal woman or a midlife woman in general, wherever you are on the menopause path, being around other people will affect your emotional state. So it is extremely important that you curate as much as possible those people. It's like, think about it as like your garden of life, and you need to prune, you need to weed out the people who bring you down, the people who are causing you to amplify their negative emotions. So if you're around somebody who's always in a shit mood, then you're going to amplify that. And is that what you really want? Probably not. I'm just guessing. As opposed to being near somebody who is joyful all the time, or joyful often, or sees lots of possibility and excitement, being around that kind of person is going to bring you up. And it's going to bring you up even when your hormones are going haywire, which is a beautiful thing. It's the mechanics of how you work. Now, if you are defined in your emotional solar plexus, then a couple of things to consider. Like, are you defined with a conscious channel? In my chart, it's going to be blue. In the traditional chart, it's going to be black. If you're defined consciously, then you're going to probably connect and feel a little more aware of your emotional landscape versus if you are defined unconsciously, which in my chart is going to be that goldish color, or in a traditional chart is going to be red. If you are defined unconsciously, then you might not be as aware of your emotions, right? And that's me. I have a defined ESP, but it's unconscious. And so sometimes I feel like I have to look back at how I was feeling to really dissect it and understand it. So if you do have definition, it just means that you're going to be riding an emotional wave of some sort. It could be many emotional waves. You know, there could be, what are there? 7, I guess. 7 different possibilities. So it could be that you have 1. It could be that you have 4. Who knows? And what happens is there are mechanics. So you're going to have highs and you're going to have lows. It's just this constant up and down, depending on which kind of emotional wave you have. And I did record an episode about the emotional waves. I will link it in the show notes. So when you think about that, you want to just consider, okay, if I'm in my emotional wave and I'm feeling really awful right now, instead of making it mean something about yourself, mean something like, oh, my hormones are just all over the place and I'm just never going to feel good again, and this sucks and life is horrible, blah, blah, blah. If you're saying that kind of thing, chances are you're probably in the low part of your emotional wave. So it's just a time you can also kind of laugh at it, you know? You can have a sense of humor because you know that this is just the mechanics of the way that your body works. And so, okay, maybe I'm having a low right now and I'm just going to wait it out. You know, just wait it out. Know that it will pass. Make yourself a lovely cup of tea. Go for a run. Do something, dance it out. Move the emotion. Move it through your body. And just understand that it's a moment in time. It's going to pass. And that messenger is just letting you know where you are on your emotional wave. So thinking about your ESP meaning emotional solar plexus. I just say ESP because that is a mouthful. Emotional solar plexus. When you look at your ESP, look at its definition. Is it colored in? Is it not colored in? And then look at how many gates you have defined. Because when you have gate definition, those little numbers that are colored in, when you have gate definition, let's say you have an undefined solar plexus, but you have like 5 gates defined. That is 5 different opportunities that you are consistently pushing out. They're like little tendrils, those little tendrils that are looking for the electromagnetic connection. And when you get that connection from another person, they're going to give you definition in your solar plexus. Temporarily, you're going to feel those emotions. Remember, again, you're going to feel them and you're going to amplify them. So for you, it's about building wisdom. It's about understanding like, oh, when I'm around this person, I tend to really take on how they're feeling. And I can see that I am a mirror for them. And wow, okay, so that's interesting. So I then need to just come back into my own space and understand how I really feel. And it could be, how do I actually feel about that person? It could be just, how do I feel about the situation, et cetera, et cetera. So it's about, for you, developing wisdom there. And for the defined solar plexus, it's about developing an understanding of your waves and keeping track of them. You know, it can be so powerful to keep track of your emotional wave and to see, even throughout the day, how many times you may be coming into highs and lows. And then over the course of a month or a few months, to see the difference in how your wave travels. And is it affected by specific things? Is it affected by the moon? Is it affected by your cycle? You know, if you're still having a menstrual cycle, how is it affected? And when you understand that, it helps you to feel so much more empowered. And especially when it comes to manifestation, it helps you to understand like, oh, okay, I'm in my emotional wave, I'm in the low, and I can just understand that it doesn't mean that what I'm working toward, what I'm working to manifest will never come to fruition. It's just, I'm having this thought right now because I'm in my low. And so again, going back to, how do you move it? How do you move it out of there? How do you process that emotion? Get your body in motion. Now, I think I've talked about the feelings wheel before on this podcast, but I love the feelings wheel. It's just literally a wheel of emotions that's on feelingswheel.com. And I love using this because when you have a limited vocabulary around your emotional state, then that means that it's unclear for you exactly how you're feeling. And when you can't identify it, it's so much harder to feel it, to really allow your body to feel it and then process it and let it go, right? You can, in order to fully feel through an emotion, it takes about 90 seconds. And if you just allow your body to feel the emotion, then it will feel it and then it'll be done. It'll let it go. The problem is when we resist our emotions and try to stuff them down. You can't stuff down an emotion. Emotion is energy in motion. So if you stuff it down, quote unquote, then you're actually just pushing it further into your body instead of letting it go. And what's scary about that and not great about that is that this is what leads to disease, right? This is what makes our bodies unwell, is when we're stuffing down those emotions. And when you don't understand your design, when you don't understand whether you are emotionally defined or undefined, then that can lead to confusion, it can lead to blame, it can lead to frustration, anger, all of those not self themes, which can be even more challenging in a time of our lives when We're in cougar puberty. It's like this whole crazy time of our lives that's hard enough. And when you don't understand how your emotions work and how you're designed to process them, then that just adds a whole other layer. And I think when you don't understand it, it causes you to tamp them down. And then again, going back to the idea of making your body unwell. And I also believe that there's a very good chance that your emotional health and your hygiene has a whole lot to do with the perimenopause symptoms that you are experiencing. You know, if you are having hot flashes all of the time, then your body is trying to burn away something. Is it repressed emotions? Are there some emotions in there that you haven't allowed yourself to feel, or that you have just not processed in some way, shape, or form? And all of the symptoms, I mean, right, if you're breathing, you have some kind of symptom. Everybody goes through perimenopause, or everybody goes through menopause. Some people go through it overnight because they have a hysterectomy, but there's this period, right, leading up to it. That's perimenopause. And during that hormonal chaos, when our body is recalibrating to eject all of our eggs, to spend them all up, then we are in that phase of a lot of unrest. And there are lots of feels around that. There are lots of feelings about not having the same capacity that you once had, about having to slow down, having to take care of your body differently because you just don't have the energy to do the things that you used to do. And I think that understanding your emotions is such a powerful key to navigating this phase with much more ease and much more flow. And I talk a lot about it on the pod about the 1 degree pivot, right? About taking those seemingly tiny little actions to pivot just a little bit that end up turning the whole ship around. And I think that this idea of being able to name your emotions by using the feelings wheel is one of those potential 1 degree pivots, because you have the feeling, you name it, and by naming it, you better understand what's happening in your body, and then you can choose an action or a non-action, depending on what the feeling is. So I have a quick little practice here that I want to offer up to you to maybe experiment with this week. So let's say your partner walks through the door and is in a mood, and they start going off on you about how all the cars need to be fixed and how much it's going to cost and blah, blah, blah. And they're all stressed out. So when they come in the door and they start going off, you start to feel the heat rise in your body. You start to feel your blood pressure rising. You start to feel stress creeping in. You start to feel your body tightening. Okay, those are all messengers. Those are all ways that your nervous system and your emotions are communicating with you. So the first thing I invite you to do is pause. Take a pause, take a breath, and ground into your body. Take a pause, take a breath, and ground into your body. Just be there. As much as you don't want to be there in that moment, be there. I have to add a caveat here. If you are in an abusive relationship where there could be some serious danger, this, first of all, is maybe not a great example, and I sincerely apologize for that. And second of all, what I'm going through, this method that I'm going through, that I'm offering up to you, may not apply in certain circumstances for you. So backing up, when you are in this situation and you're partner is frustrated and you are having this reaction, it is your nervous system wanting to keep you safe. And what can happen, though, is that we can overreact. Or I don't want to say overreact. Overreact is actually a horrible word because it assumes that a reaction, even a loud reaction, is an overreaction. And that leads into the idea of us being too much, right? When we have big emotions, somehow that's an overreaction. What I mean to say is that you are having a reaction and it feels big because your body is trying to keep you safe. This is your nervous system, and your nervous system doesn't like to hear this yelling. It doesn't like to hear this person upset, and it's potentially taking it personally and feeling like it's a threat. So this pause for you is allowing you to breathe and to calm yourself and to ground in and to let your body know that it is safe. And then the second step is to name the feeling that you're feeling and use that feelings wheel. So, for example, anger is on the feelings wheel. I'm feeling mad. So the classic when you ask people to name emotions is mad, sad, and happy. Like those are the three that most people can name. So if you use the feelings wheel, let's say you're feeling mad, you can look at it and say, okay, actually, I am feeling shocked right now. I was just doing my thing. All was good. You know, I was working. I was sitting at the kitchen counter. And all of a sudden, my partner walked in and totally changed the mood. So I felt shocked. There's a part of me that felt afraid. There's a part of me that felt anxious. There's a part of me that felt hurt. There's a part of me that felt guilty, depressed, lonely. Those are all feelings. Do you see how naming all of those emotions then allows you to further understand what is happening in that moment for you? And whenever you feel angry, actually, whenever you feel a lot of the like mad, sad, happy, there are always multiple levels and more specific ranges of emotion that you are experiencing there. And so understanding when you go immediately into defensive mode, when your partner starts going off, that is just the surface level of what you are feeling. And when you can get into those deeper levels, you can allow yourself to feel a little lonely in that moment. You can allow yourself to feel shocked in that moment. Step 3 is asking yourself, okay, if this feeling was telling me what it wants most from me right now, what would it ask of me? So for example, let's go with shocked. I am feeling shocked in this moment. What I hear from that shock is that I need some transition time. I need to be able to depend on when you walk through that door, I'm not going to feel accosted by what your mood is or whatever you happen to be thinking about. I need to feel safe in my space. So if you are feeling upset or stressed about something, could you please, and this is the last step, is you choosing one tiny aligned action that you can do in that moment. So say to your partner, I hear you, and we can talk about the cars in a minute, but I need you to understand how shocking that was for my system when you walked through the door and you started in. So could you please, can we maybe build a system together where we have, I've heard of people using this before where it's like you walk in and you say, I need to vent. I need you to listen, or I need a solution. I think it's something like that. So just communicating, what is it exactly that your partner wants or needs in this moment? And giving that transition to you then allows you to be like, oh, okay, they're coming in the door. They walk in and they say, I need to vent. Now you're ready. You feel like, okay, cool. Let me shut my computer. Let me be available for you to just vent. And I'm just going to sit here and listen. And that's it. And if I'm an undefined emotional solar plexus and I start to get worked up, I'm going to understand that I am amplifying how you are feeling. I'm going to understand that it's temporary. And I'm also going to understand that I'm going to walk away, get my own space, shake it off, get rid of that emotion, and then come back and feel like a supportive partner. Or if I am defined, noticing before that vent, where am I in my emotional wave right now? Am I at a somewhat neutral place? Am I in the high, the low? Am I transitioning? Where am I? And then noticing, how do I actually feel? And then just listening. So I printed out the feelings wheel and I put it up on my refrigerator. I love it that my kids actually look at it too. And I think it's just such a beautiful tool to be able to understand what is going on with you in this phase, to start to build that trust with your emotions. And as at the time of this episode drop, we are going to have a new moon in Libra coming up on Tuesday. Libra is such a beautiful sign with themes of balance and harmony and relationships and justice. And this new moon is a great new moon for manifesting. New moons are all about fresh energy. They're about fresh starts. They are beginnings of cycles. So think about how you have learned to identify your emotions. You've learned a 4-step process of how to work with your emotions in order to identify them and then process them. And think about how you can start to utilize your emotions in the manifesting process, which essentially has to do with tuning into the feeling in your body when you are thinking about what it is that you want and imagining that you already have it. Imagining that feeling. Use the feelings wheel. Use that wheel and think, okay, how does having this actually feel? And when have I felt like that before? And bring that time that you felt. Let's use the example of freedom and joy. And think about, when is a time that you felt free, that you felt so joyful? And what did that feel like in your body? Where did you feel it? And if you can call up that feeling and feel into it for 17 seconds in a row, that seems to be the key. There are studies about this. That seems to be the key to helping you lock in that emotion as it ties to your manifestation. And when you're using the new moon energy to do the same thing, it's like, chef's kiss. It's like an exclamation point. It's just further supported by the new moon energy. So being that this is a new moon in Libra, it's a good time to focus on the Libra themes in your manifestation. So thinking about Is there a place where you're calling in more balance or harmony? Or is there something that needs to be addressed in your relationships or that you want to manifest? Maybe you want to manifest a relationship. Maybe you've been through a split and you are ready for another person, ready to share your life with another person. This is a great time to call that person in. So another thing you can do is look at what house Libra occupies in your astrological chart, which you can also get on my website. So just take a look at where does Libra fall in my astro chart and what's going on in those house themes. When I send out my newsletter, I often have a chart that explains all of the different house themes from Maddie Murphy. So if you're not on my newsletter yet, then get on my newsletter list. I will put a link in the show notes and you will have that in your inbox when I send out newsletters about the transits. So I hope that this episode was helpful in terms of helping you understand both what's going on with your emotional solar plexus, i.e., how are you defined or undefined? And then how do you use that to better understand what's going on with you in perimenopause and menopause? And then how do you use your emotions to fuel your manifestations? So if this is something that you want to understand your specific emotional design, your waves, your openness, and you want to use it as your compass for what's next, figuring out what's next, that's exactly what I do in my one-to-one coaching. So book a call to map it out with me. I'll leave that in the show notes. You know what to do. And just remember that your emotions are guides. They are messengers for you. They are meant to be felt. So thank them. They are messengers from your body, whether they're ginormous feels or just little tiny in the moment feels. There's no need to reject any of it. You are not too much. The feelings are not too much. They are just part of your human experience. And I want you to reject any pressure that you feel, especially in this time of life, to tone it down, to feel less, to hide your emotions, because your health and well-being literally depend on you feeling through them. Okay? And I've been thinking about my sign off at the end of my podcast and like, Lori, you really need something better than until next time. So I've got something, and it is Here's to Living Your Midlife by Your Design. Thanks so much for listening to today's episode of Midlife by Design. If you are ready to work together, then check out the link in the show notes. And remember that I am always wishing you the strength to let go of what no longer serves you, joy to fill your days, and the clarity to be who you came here to be.